Okay, so this is my presentation on emotion focused therapy. It's one of the theories we covered in this class, um, and how being vulnerable can be effective. So, um, so as we go on, so, my personal reflection on this study was I felt like it was really well done. After reading this article and attending class, I it became apparent to me that emotion focused therapy is really beneficial for people who have anxious attachment or any attachment. Just emotion focused therapy and attachment theory go really well together, and I couldn't help but think of my own experience of communication and family, and just being around family members who have trouble communicating, and using emotion focused therapy um, seems very beneficial in this case. And we'll see how those interventions work in further slides. But personally, I really enjoyed this article. I feel like it's very beneficial for um, individuals who don't really want to be in therapy, because it's just focusing on the present and your feelings, and you can't deny feelings. You can push them down, but they're real and they're what people are experiencing. So I think it's a good first step for people who are kind of hesitant about therapy. um but the introduction stated, so this study is looking at different couples in therapy and the likelihood that couples will become more vulnerable with each other in treatment. Basically, not only opening up in therapy, but opening up outside of therapy as well. Um, the hypothesis states that when um, this is done, their results will find an increased vulnerability after doing these sessions, kind of exercising a muscle that they weren't aware that they had. Um, and because of this, they will be more likely to use it at home, which is the overall goal. It's to participate in revealing emotional engagement. So start to, instead of pushing down those emotions, acknowledging that a person has them, and promoting for the other partner or other people in the party while they're talking about their emotions to also listen to them without judgment, without interrupting, without getting defensive. I know it's easier said than done, but providing a meaningful meaning to that context of the emotion. So, and like I said, we'll talk about it in the interventions, but having a deeper understanding of why individuals feel that way. So the way this study was done, this the method for this study consisted of 33 participants. They were all heterosexual couples that were selected for the study, and they were split between 18 therapists in the original study. And they all practice emotion focused therapy. The sessions were done in person, and then they were recorded for the therapist to look back on um, while they, after the session was over, and then they recorded the amount of times the clients were vulnerable with each other. Between the 33 couples that they were working with, they noted 103 events of being vulnerable when looking back at the recordings. Some topics that were covered during these sessions were topics of abortion, topics of financial stressors, drug use in the home, and even possible affairs. So heavy topics that people tend to avoid and not want to talk about, and sometimes push it under the rug. So this is one following case study I included. So this couple, also Caucasian, also heterosexual, they were attending therapy and being part of this study because they felt distant between each other, and particularly the male felt um, distant. So you see how this intervention is used. So typically, the therapist will notice changes in the body in session, not only what is being said, but also what is being presented in the body language. And then the therapist will pause the conversation for a moment and say, I noticed you're feeling a little tense. I noticed you're holding a lot. I noticed you're looking a little anxious, whatever the case may be. And then they will talk about it. They will express um, that what they're feeling is normal. It does not make them weak or any less of a human to feel these certain ways. So they will validate their past experience. So in this study, they stated, it sounds like you've been carrying a lot, that you experienced a lot of trauma, and it validates that what they have gone through in the past is difficult. Um, then the third step is to name an emotion and recognize why they are doing certain behaviors. So notice and bring to the surface. I notice that you're withdrawing. I notice that you are not slightly present in the conversation. Um, and then the final step is naming the emotion that is going on. So either sad, scared, frustrated, any of these emotions. Anger is typically um covering up for a deeper emotion, but anger is still an emotion. Um and acknowledge that, and then get to the deeper meaning of that. And then you would see that here in the study, they were feeling bad about themselves, and they did not want to put that on their partner. Um, so what we see here with the results, um, in the study, they realized that recognizing internal changes covers more than what is just being said. Um, Also, acknowledging what has happened in the past validates where how far they come, and not only that, but like acknowledge their feelings, that their feelings are valid and real, like I said. And naming emotions also tends to add to that relief of um, just finally making sense of how they feel. And one of the interventions that is used here, and there's many more, such as letter writing, such as role playing, but I feel statements definitely works in this um, study and this intervention the most, because it doesn't put blame on the partner as much as saying you made me feel so and so instead of I feel hurt because I wanted to, or I withdrew because I wanted to protect you and I didn't want to put the negative feelings that I was feeling on you. And like putting it that way makes it less likely for the parties to get defensive. They may still get defensive, but it could be less defensiveness. Also, in the other examples that I didn't put here, I put one for clarity, but another one is the willingness to open up and talk about it is another effective result. Sometimes they don't need the I feel statements, but just getting it out and saying that they're experiencing it, willing to open it up, the results notice that the more stages you go through in this, the more effective the therapy will be. And finally, in the critiques of this article, this for future implications of this article, um, this can also be done in not only couples and romantic relationships, but also platonic relationships as well. We have arguments in friendships. Also, parents and children, adult children and their adult parents, and even this can be identified for teenagers and even uh, changing the language for different age ranges. Other limitations regarding culture. Um, this article struggled, and I felt the research was lacking because we focused predominantly on white heterosexual couples. As we know, there are many different couples and especially cultures and LGBTQ plus communities, and I feel like future implications of this research can enrich um, having multiple different couple standpoints and their struggles, but and I feel like that can influence the research a little bit. The research itself after the case studies were complete were a little bit hard to um differ what works best. When you looked at the results, that might have been just how I was interpreting it, but that was it was a little less clear for me. But overall, the intervention seemed highly effective. The examples were clearly stated, and it was just clear to follow with the case studies that were shown. Overall, this is a really great article that I recommend everyone read, and I think emotion focused therapy is very beneficial. It's not something that I thought about a lot since this class, and attachment theory is really close to my heart. So whenever I hear attachment theory, I'm all for it. But I hope you enjoyed, and here is my reference, and thank you for watching.